It
Let's
says it's in
see.
progress right now.
It is. Okay, good. All right. So, Robert, we talked, what has it been, like 6 months ago that we had our last talk?
It was a
Feels like
while
it's been
back.
a
It was
while.
yes,
Uh,
yes.
why, don't, why don't you bring us up to speed again on what got you started with your current activism, what happened to your mom? I think there's a lot of lessons there for all of us to learn about our own parents and medical treatment. So let's kind of recap what happened to your mom.
Well, remember last time I spoke about mom who just passed away from antibiotics. She went to get I said a procedure. I didn't want to say the doctor or the title, anything like that in the first place, the first time, because, once again, I said, don't give the devil a foothold. Don't give an opportunity for something you're trying to do for something to sidetrack it. So, what happened was my mama passed away. She went to the dentist and she got an antibiotic, and the antibiotic is called clindamycin. Remember that name, clindamycin. And she took it for like 1 or 2, maybe 3 days, and started having side effects, which was diarrhea, a headache, stomach problems. And she got off them because she was having the side effects, and she started to feel pretty bad. So we took her to the hospital. First hospital took her in, and she was there for about a week, and they released her. They released her with antibiotics for colitis, and she was doing well for about a week. We had family members flying from across the country coming in. She was never alone. I was there. I took time off from work to make sure she was on her antibiotics on time, doing whatever we had to do to watch her. She was never alone. And then she got better, and then all of a sudden she got worse again. And then we took her to another hospital here. We took her to St. Joseph's Hospital, and there they found out in the ICU. My mama told her the story. What happened? She was taking the antibiotics. She took clindamycin. You see, I'm saying the name now. There's a reason why I'm putting out the name. And they said, it sounds like you have C. diff because obviously they know there's side effects of C. diff. I've talked to nurses in the hospitals that have said, "What is that? We don't even know what that is. What is that?" And so she went and the ICU, and what happened was they found out that she had C. diff, and the only thing that she was taking was clindamycin, which is the antibiotic that dentists prescribe. They prescribe clindamycin in case you have your allergies to penicillin. It's like the secondary thing or something like that they'll give you, and that's what happened,
Correct.
man. And
That's what I
then
read up on. And the downside is when they give you these antibiotics, it kills your good bacteria in your stomach, and then the bad bacteria, the C. diff, takes over. And it sounds like that's what happened to your mom.
exactly what happened. And I was there. She was there for like 3 weeks in the hospital. She was never left alone. My dad was there from 12 hours to 24 hours with her. I was there 24 hours with her. Other family members would come, and we saw so much pain and suffering she went through from going to get her just to get her tooth pulled. My mom was 92 years old. People say, well, she lived her life. She's 92, blah, 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 all these negative things. But my mother was 92, not in and out the hospital. She was not on a walker. She was on a wheelchair. She was still grocery shopping. She was still mopping the floor in the kitchen on her knees. She was still doing all the things a 60-year-old person would do, right? I used to take time off from work just to take her to the grocery store, to spend some time with her, go grocery shopping together. And she would say, let's go. She goes specifics to find certain meats to feed her family, my brothers. So she's very active. Like I said before, she was sweeping the backyard. She was watering her plants. She would cook at the same time, wash her clothes. Whenever we got groceries, she'd go to the trunk, pull the groceries out herself, and start walking in at 92 years old. Very active. So when
Right.
people
And
say,
she
well,
was still cooking all the meals for your holidays, right?
yes, Christmas, Thanksgiving, she's cooking full meals in the kitchen with no assistance, no help, cooking full meals. So when people make comments about that stuff about my mom, I'm like, okay, you have to have seen my mama before you can make those comments, and you might think differently, you know, and because I know when people get older,
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
think,
Look, she might have made it to.
who knows? But I didn't know she would have been here this year, last year doing Christmas and Thanksgiving dinners. I know that for sure, you know. But like
For
I said
sure.
before,
Yeah. We
it's
never
not the
know.
way. Yeah, it's not the way. Our thing is, it's not the way that she. It's the ways that she passed away is our issue, man. If she had passed away with natural causes, whatever, because she just that's fine. But no, she passed away from this antibiotic she received from the dentist, which the dentist has given out a lot of that stuff. And SIDRAP
Yeah, yeah.
investigation, SIDRAP and investigation, infection investigation. Liz Zabel did an awesome job of investigating this stuff. There's 3 articles out there. So if your listeners want to go to Dolores Owens, Dolores Owens SIDRAP, Google it, Dolores Owens SIDRAP, you'll see the articles put up. It's not only on SIDRAP, but it's being shared to KFF Health News. It's just moving now because this is a serious issue. So that's what happened to my mom.
Right. And I think you're doing everyone a service by talking about this because it could happen to anybody's mom or dad, and I think the general public doesn't have a good understanding. You mentioned even the nurses don't know about the C. diff. So, getting the word out is pretty powerful, and it's painful to talk about, but I think there's a lot of value there in trying to educate.
Yeah, I had a friend that texted me the other day. He said, Robert, I went to the dentist and they offered me clindamycin antibiotics. I said, no, give me something else. So they gave him another antibiotic. And then he asked the dentist, do you have, excuse me, do you have any reservations of giving out clindamycin? He goes, no, that's why we tell them to eat first. And then later on, he texted me, he said, Robert, I sent them your mother's article to my dentist. I said, great, thank you. Because dentists are just giving it out like that, they giving it out and, are you still there?
There you are. Sorry, we cut out for a second. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can now.
Yeah, technology is not perfect, my friend. So I'm going to try to keep my video off. But we were talking about kind of the outreach, and you've gotten some help from folks who are kind of putting the word out. But what would you say is the next step now to try to take this a step further? I discovered that dentists are being told not to use this, but there's no law about that. Could it be that there's a legislative fix to prevent these deaths?
Yes, my family's working on that right now, trying to get legislation done, speaking to certain people. I've been calling, I've been speaking to Congress people I know who are in Congress, organizations that say they can most likely help try to get legislation done. Because if we don't get it out there in that level, what's going on with this. Now, we're not against antibiotics. I want you people who's listening to this, we're not against antibiotics. We're not against anything like that. I just did antibiotics for my sinus infections recently. We're not against antibiotics, but we need to make sure that we're trying to do our best to give people information what to do, the do's and don'ts when you see your dentist. Before you go to the dentist, make sure that you ask questions. Do they want to give you antibiotics? The question is, do I need antibiotics? Do I really need antibiotics? Do I need clindamycin? Is there something else you can give me besides clindamycin? Because we all have to go to the dentist at some point, unless you got a great healthy mouth, which they say my mouth is full of germs. So we're trying to get legislation done right now to put it out there, because what's going on is that they believe that, according to the article, once again, if you check the articles, that dentists maybe need to go to school and learn about this stuff, learn about the clindamycin, learn about deeper what's going on with it. So we're trying to get legislation or something going right now. Most of all, putting it out there like something like this.
Yeah, and I know most medical professionals have to get some extra training every year to stay current. It's possible a guy who finished dentist school 10 years ago, uh, unless they're doing some kind of annual refresher, they might miss something like this, and then overprescribe or accidentally prescribe. Now, I think we talked about this, that clindamycin is used for people that are allergic to penicillin. Are there other alternatives for those people?
Yes, you just have to ask them, amoxicillin, whatever. There's different things you need to ask them. Ask them your dentist prior to the antibiotic. If they give the antibiotic, clindamycin, you can ask the questions. Is there anything else I can take besides clindamycin? And I'm sure there is. I'm sure there's tons. My friend, like I said, he asked for he asked for different antibiotics. They give him amoxicillin instead of clindamycin. His dentist gave him amoxicillin. It worked for him. So there's
Yeah, that's
alternatives.
a I know that's a strong one too. the whole issue of wiping out your gut bacteria, I've read that in some cases they've actually had to transfer stool from a healthy person to the one who had their good bacteria knocked out and kind of reculture the stomach, which is crazy. But that seems to be the only fix. And I think in your mom's case, being 92, you know, um, that was a lot to ask for somebody, who's got that many years on.
Yeah, the surgeon told my mom right in front of my mom's face, my dad, myself. He told her, you know what? Most people your age, when we do what we these operations, is you're gonna need an operation. You may need an operation. They just say, just let me die.
Wow.
Right in front of my mom, right in front of my dad and myself. And I said, we complained about it. You complain about what kind of bedside manner is that from a surgeon to tell you my mom that, you know?
Right.
So she told him, no, I don't want to. I know she's thinking I'm 92. I'm not gonna go through that pain and you cutting out my guts, my inside and all that stuff. And then he kept coming there like 2 or 3 times. My nephew, my niece said no. One night he said, I got emails of all this stuff. He said, no, we told you before, stop bothering my mom, my grandmother, because my mom was like, no, no, I don't want it. He was trying to convince her, or I don't know, maybe I don't know the reason behind it. But it turns out at the end of all this, my mom just said, she was tired. She said, I'm tired. I seen what she went through for 3 weeks. I was there 24 hours, waking her up every 2 hours to step through, and her arms and legs swelling up, and all the stuff
Mm,
she went through, man. The nausea, to continue holding the vomit bag, the nausea, you know, all she went through because she trusted her dentist. I'm gonna say it. She trusted her dentist. The
right.
dentist that she's been going through for years. We trust our doctors, right? We've been there for years with them. Okay, take this antibiotic. Thank you, doc. Thank you. But the family didn't know what the side effects of clindamycin. I was reading paperwork right here. CityRap News said investigations found that the message isn't getting through. In spite of repeated warnings about the risk, dentists continue to prescribe antibiotics in large numbers, often inappropriate. Instead of declining, antibiotics prescribing by dentists increased by 6%. Instead of declining, antibiotics prescribing by dentists increased 6%. The professionals wrote more than 27 million antibiotic prescriptions, according to data provided exclusively to CIDRAP. News from IQVIA Institute for Human Data Science, an organization based in Parsippany, whatever it is, New Jersey, that provides research analysts on healthcare. So it says once again, CityRap News investigation found that the message isn't getting through. In spite of repeated warnings about the risk, dentists continue to prescribe antibiotics in large numbers, often inappropriately.
And I think this issue is even deeper than all this. You have a lot of families that don't have access to health care. We've seen the scandal this year that the rates have gone up so much for Obamacare, and the government just hasn't fixed this situation. So I wonder how many people just aren't getting proper dental care, and then they start getting the infections because they're not getting the hygiene. I go several times a year just to see the hygienist and clean the gums and all that. But I've got really good insurance. So I think beyond the issue of overprescribing antibiotics, there's probably a lot of folks that just their mouths are not in a good place due to lack of care, and then they get the infection, and then that opens the door to prescribing the wrong antibiotic. So
Right.
it's a huge problem, and I know a lot of people don't really even think about dental care as being that vital. One of my youngest son is still on my insurance but doesn't want to go. I'm like, man, you're taking a risk. But you have to wonder if the education aspect of this has to go even beyond just the antibiotics, but just encouraging people to do the proper dental care so they don't get the infections.
Yeah. Once again, in the articles, there's 3 articles. One dentist says that we had to learn to keep our meat, brush our teeth twice a day.
Mm-hmm.
Giving us advice of what to do. If you start feeling something wrong with your tooth or an infection, go to the dentist. So in the article, it's not just about negativity about clindamycin. It's also, as it says, it's called the do's and don'ts. It's what you do and what you don't do.
Right.
Don't already assume when you walk in your dentist and ask for antibiotics, because you may not need antibiotics. We
Correct.
already assumed that, right? And also what you need to do to keep your mouth clean, like I said, brush your teeth twice a day and stay away from certain things, that affect your teeth. So yeah, uh, once again, we're not against antibiotics. And this, once again, we're putting it out there, because clindamycin has helped a lot of people. I know that it helped a lot of people. but it also has great amount of side effects. It has the greatest amount of side effects because it says it, the way it affects you. So you're right. People need to
Well,
know. Go ahead.
clindamycin works really well. It kills bacteria, but that's the problem. It seems to kill everything except the C. diff, and that gives C. diff the chance to just explode. And
Yeah.
and I don't know how many people realize that about bacteria. You could start out with just a little bit, but they double and double and double, and before long, you've got a big infection. And so that's kind of the chance. And that the other thing I don't know if people realize about bacteria is when they're doing what they're doing, the output from the bacteria is acid, and so that acid ends up creating problems with your tissue, and it's just a slippery slope at that point.
Yeah, I was reading another part right here. It says, without access to a person's medical records, a dentist may have no way to know if a patient has previously been treated for C. diff. Right? So you can be a person going to the dentist, and the dentist doesn't know if you've been treated by C. diff at all, and then you get antibiotics that cause C. diff, and what happens there? A major risk factor for a recurring infection unless the patient volunteers that information. Recurring. Dentists also may not see the complications caused by inappropriate antibiotic use, said Christian Lillis, co-founder and CEO of the Peggy Lillis Foundation. She has a story about her parents too. An advocacy
Mm,
group that raises awareness about C. difficile. Hospital-based physicians and nurses may be more aware of the risk of C. diff because patients with the infection, like my mother, tend to be hospitalized. So now, when they come to the hospital, you're going through the process, and they check you. Oh, you have C. diffs, right? So it's just about antibiotics. It's C. diff. I mean C. diffs. Clindamycin is very hard on your body, very hard on your body, and that's exactly what she took was clindamycin. And there's
yeah,
so
the
much in this.
strongest antibiotic on the market.
Yeah, so it's just what I'm trying to want your viewers to know is that once again, read the articles. I'm not trying to scare nobody. I'm not trying to scare nobody, but you need to be informed before you go to the dentist. The questions you need to ask. Be informed what's going on. Most people, I think I said before, don't want to know the side effects of any antibiotic. I understand that. And then you're wondering why your gut hurts a week later, or why my stomach is killing me, why I have diarrhea, why is everything going on? And then you just happen to, for clindamycin, take clindamycin from the dentist, which was that time about clindamycin, and now you're like, why must I had a friend that I had a friend when this first happened to my mom. I was talking to her about it, and she said, Robert, I was wondering why I was defecating, right, so much, and she got so scared. She told me she got so scared that she videotaped her mother or FaceTimed her mother and said, "Mom, look it," because she didn't know what was going on. I got another person in my family that's talking. I might have said it before. My family that talked about at her job, the person in her job was having some stomach issues, and they asked her. My family member asked her, "What are you taking?" She said, "Clindamycin." She said, "Oh no, go back to your doctor." Doctor said, "Get off it. Get off it. We'll get you something else." So I got so many stories, man, since I've talked to people since this has happened, and a lot of people are saying, thank you, Robert, that your family's doing this because we don't know. We never heard the word. I went to a meeting just the other day. The morning, I told you about it. By the time I was done at the end, somebody came to me with Robert. I just took my mother to the dentist the other day. And then he's telling me, "Can you come speak in my group?" I said, "Yes, I'll come speak at your group. I'll bring the
Excellent.
information. I won't come. I won't come not knowing. I come with information
Right.
like this from investigative reporter Liz Zabel, who spoke to professionals about clindamycin that's going on. So yes, we're trying to get legislation, working on legislation. I spoke to a very good friend of ours, a congressman, and trying to see when if he told me we'll meet. I want him. I mean, they're busy people. I know, they're very busy people, but this is something that look at, bro. This is something anybody can champion himself on. Anybody, right? Who chooses to pick up on this. This is facts. This is investigated. There are professionals behind this stuff. Where people can say, "Well, you're making it up." No, these are professionals that have spoke up against it. And I'm asking my friend, fine, but any legislator who wants to help me do this, help our family, help others, not just our family, help others with
Correct.
this stuff. So yes, that's what the next step we're working on.
That's fantastic. Well, and obviously anything we can do to help. We talked a lot about that off on the phone this week,
Yeah.
and we have a lot of the same friends in politics. So
Yes.
I'm confident that somebody out there is going to listen and at least start to work it from that angle. But in the interim, I think you're doing the Lord's work by just getting out and
Thank you.
talking to folks. And you gave some good examples of people that didn't even know that they were already in harm's path, taking this particular antibiotic. There's a lot of things like that that we just don't remember from eighth grade science, and it comes back to get you later. So good work there. Any final thoughts you want to leave with our readers?
Yes, I would say that if you're taking any antibiotic, uh, start eating foods that are with probiotics, right? Eat foods, yogurt.
100%. Yes, yogurt.
Yeah, yeah, yogurt.
I
What's it
know
called?
there's yogurt that has extra probiotics in it, and
Yes.
that's a real good thing to do.
Start eating, search whatever you want to Google, whatever you're going to need to eat or drink, whatever. There's cabbage. What is it we spoke about? The cabbage.
Yeah, fermented food. Correct.
Yeah, fermented food, berries, blueberries, all the stuff that puts it into you because the antibiotic is going to start working on your probiotics, your system, and you want to make sure that you have it in there to help cover you. So that's the thing I want to also let your readers or listeners know is that it's very important that you put it back in because the antibiotic is going to try to take it out. You know,
That's right. That's
that's the
right.
side effects. That's the side effects of it. So like I said, I just did a bunch of for my sinuses. I was eating drinking daily shots of yogurt. I was eating blueberries, bananas, apples, putting it in. Because that's very important. So like I said, we're not. These are the do's and don'ts.
That's right.
Do eat the food you need to put in your system when you're on these antibiotics. Do eat it. Do eat it, and not just during the process of antibiotics, but just in life. How about just in life? Just eat the stuff that you need inside your stomach, right?
Yeah, yeah, and I think too, people need to really read the directions from the doctor because most of the time the doctor also says finish the antibiotics, and if you don't finish, you might end up just making that bacteria stronger, and that's a
Right,
problem right now. That
right.
penicillin, we talked about that earlier, it barely works now because the bacteria have gotten resistant. So all of us have to think about these things and do research. It's so easy now with AI that you can just go on there and find out more about whatever topic. But especially with our loved ones, our parents
Yeah,
and such, we got to take that
yeah.
extra step because. Mhm.
That's our goal, man. I'm strongly convicted about doing this because, like I said, our mother had passed of natural causes. We'd miss her, but this is not how she passed away, man. So my family is on a mission to get it out
That's
there
right.
and probably get legislation because we're here to help. I've been in ministry for 40 years, man. Community activism, fighting hunger, giving, give. It's not going to change. My life's not going to change. It's what I do. I help fight it. If I can help fight hunger in the community during COVID, during all this stuff, I can help fight for people in general. And that's what it's all about.
Well, and I think the fact that you're grounded in faith. We talked about how your mom at the end mentioned, "I'm going to go see my family that's gone and
Yeah,
a friend." You
yeah.
know, when you're grounded in faith, death is not as depressing as might otherwise be. I can't imagine if you don't have that faith how awful it must be to think about the end. But nevertheless, I think the issue here we lost her too soon, and we want to make sure nobody else has to feel that pain.
That's the
Well,
idea.
thank
So
you
if
very
anybody
much.
who's watching it, you're welcome.
Yes, yes. Anyone watching, definitely talk about the article again. Where can they find that?
CIDRAP, CIDRAP, Dolores Owens. Just Google that. DOLORESOWENS. It's going to talk about my mama's. One page is about my mama and what's going on. The other ones are like do's and don'ts. There's a lot of information out there. Be I'm just telling you guys, check it out. Don't be scared. Just read it. But it's going to give you a lot of knowledge right now because once again, we all go to the dentist. We
That's
all go to the
right.
dentist. And you want to know what to do when you get there and just say, hey, I don't want this. I'll take that. Is that best for me?
Yeah, and you know what? One last thing. It's a good idea to bring this up with your dentist and ask him, are you prescribing this to people? Because it could be the dentist just doesn't know, and
The article says that. The
we don't
article
want
talks a lot.
yeah, you're right. We don't want the dentist to lose their license or get sued or whatnot if they can just change what they're prescribing and avoid the problems. So
That's
good
exactly
work,
what we're trying to
Robert.
do with legislation. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you very much. We'll talk again.
Okay.
Oh.